Hello! So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about what happens after going to a Comic Con. Specifically in terms of breakages and things that you wouldn't necessarily think about when you were making a costume. Anything that you thought might last and then ended up didn't. So this is my Aelin cosplay from Throne of Glass. This is her dragon dress, and this is genuinely such a dream to make, and I'll talk more about that in another video. But there were a few things that went wrong having worn this all day at London Comic Con, which were the main bits of the sleeves, which I thought about at the time of making it, and then realised quickly on the day that I would forget things I specifically told myself to remember, like don't raise your hands above a certain level, otherwise you'll end up cracking the chains on the sleeves, which is what I did. This is now loose, we shall fix that. And the sleeves, you can't really raise your arms fully above maybe about there, because all of the sleeve points are sewn on so that it's very easy to rip them. So we're gonna try and fix that a little bit today so that it can be worn in the future and make it slightly more sustainable in the long run, because this is an outfit that I genuinely loved wearing and I will definitely wear again. And the other bit to fix was the skirt, because there's like 20,000 people at London Comic Con all weekend. My skirt was made up of loads of little ruffles, which, okay, so I did have a bustle which you could clip on and off, which my friend will tell you was very difficult to clip up, and that's you know, a future me reference. I'll fix the bustle at another point, but people on the whole did end up standing on the ruffles, so I'm gonna go through the entire skirt and I'm gonna sew all the ruffles back in place, and yeah, it should be wearable again in the future, because I have not done a full photo shoot in this. I've done like maybe 3/4 length body photo shoots, but because the skirt was broken I haven't had the opportunity to do it, so doing this video will make me able to do the photo shoots, which I really want to do. So yes, join me whilst I fix Aelin. So this is the first tiny little bit of the costume to feature a breakage. This is just gold chain, and then I've put five little stars on it, which you can kind of see, and it's just sewn on at the top of the corset base here, and then at the point at the back so that it hangs evenly down the sleeve. It's not attached to the sleeve at all, which meant that when I moved my arms up it did break off the back. So I'm gonna sew that back on now. One of the best things about this dress is that, as much as obviously it's velvet and velvet's tricky to work with, you can see if anything falls off where it fell off. So I'm just gonna sew it directly back on here, but you can see my sort of failings with this chain is that I don't have the tools to close the tiny little loops, and this one has a slight split in it, which is where it came off. So I'm gonna sew it back on, a chain up, and then hopefully it will stay. So I'm just gonna do a little knot. I remember when I was designing this gown based off the Throne of Glass books, which are like some of my absolute favourites, I always kind of wanted there to be chain going down the sleeves, because I know as much as it's very Feyre from ACOTAR, I always associate Aelin with looking up at the stars, or as what does Rowan say, you can rattle the stars, things like that. And I think with the black and gold especially, and the dragon flying through the sky, it needed just a little bit of stars on the design. And that's it. Ding! And the shoulder seams are once again intact. So, on to the next bit. Now the next little challenge to tackle was the sleeves. So, some of these points got a little bit messed up, and some of them are a little bit ripping. So I just want to reinforce them a little bit with Freeze Up. And it should dry clear, and hopefully it shouldn't leave a residue on everything else that it touches, which would be nice to think of. If I can get it out of the bottle. This is another one of those hindsight things. Like, I put Phrase Stop all the way along the bottom of these. Wait, no, did I? No, I put them on the corners and along the top because I burnt the edges of these, which I'll talk about in my breakdown video. But oh, yay, it's coming out the bottle finally. But I, for some reason, didn't Phrase Stop these corners, which would have made my life so much easier because then they wouldn't fray as much. It's in the name, but I just didn't think of that. So, doing this anyway will make it so that in the future it lasts much longer. So I've done that for each of the ones on that side, and they'll all dry clear. This was also, on a completely other note, one of my favourite bits of doing this costume, because this was a new skill that I never learned, and this is tambour beading embroidery, I think, and I've never done it before. I stretched out the whole thing on a frame and then made the two wings, and it was so much fun, and I will definitely be doing it on future projects. And this is the final challenge from today. So this was the only major thing that broke at Comic Con. And I had to, this is why you always take safety pins, and I just pinned it up at the back so that it wouldn't drag, because the entire thing is like gathered, and as soon as one little bit comes undone, the whole thing ungathers itself. So for a good sort of chunk of a section on the bottom row, the whole thing's just come off. So I'm gonna just whip stitch it all back on, because I don't want to try and stuff the whole thing through the sewing machine again, if I can help it. But it's all just come undone all the way along. And it's kind of an inevitable thing. People are always going to stand on everything, and it's just something that you have to accept, because there's so many people there, you really can't see your feet. I think this is just one of those moments where it does necessarily look a lot worse than it actually is. So I'm going to cut away a lot of the bits that have come undone, so that I've got a fairly flat surface to sew it all back onto. Because all of this fraying just isn't going to help anyone. Probably maybe
2 foot that's coming down on the bottom of the train, which is fine. And it'll just be slightly shorter at the back now, which is probably actually quite good. All that I've done so far is to pin the middle and then do a running stitch along the top, gathering as I went. And I've only got a little bit left to do on this side, and then I've got the other side to do. But this far it's working, and then once that's done, I'm going to do a whip stitch along the top just to secure everything more in place. And then we'll all be sorted. And this is the finished gown. It's all sorted, all fixed, and all ready for photo shoots now. So, oh, I'm so excited. I think it looks so good, and it looks practically like when I made it. All the layers have sewn back on the skirt. All of the tiny little bits that needed to be fixing are now fixed.